Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Scrimba Town Hall. Pretty special one tonight because we have got a special guest. And we'll just come to that in a second because I expect a few people will be coming in a bit slowly like they normally do. So we'll just give people a few moments to pop in. But I will say, oh, and I do need to mute my YouTube, else I'm going to get horrible feedback. Sorry if you heard that. And we'll just say a few quick hellos to some people who are joining. So we've got Mike there. Good to see Mike. Hillier Scanner says, can't wait to meet Kent. Yeah, Kent will be with us in just a second. We have also got Christopher Edison here. Hello, everyone. And Kuna saying hi. The chat is going to remain open, of course, so do come in, say hi, let us know where you are tuning in from, and of course later we will be getting around to your questions. Now, we will, as I say, come to our guest in just a moment. I will just give you a quick update of what's been going on at Scrimba. So a few weeks back, I think maybe 3 weeks ago, we shared a demo of our new instant feedback feature. I don't think we'd given it the name instant feedback at that time. So it's basically the AI which is going to check when you've submitted a challenge. When you're working through the front-end developer career path now, when you submit a challenge, AI is going to check to see if you've made an error. It's going to point you in the right direction, give you a little bit of help, and basically give you the confidence that your solution was correct, even if it was perhaps different to the teacher's own solution. So that is a really, really cool feature, which we've been mostly working on this week, because it's quite involved actually getting all of those challenges set up, a lot of prompting to tweak, etc. So hopefully we will be rolling that out later this week. I think it should be happening Thursday. And that does mean that we've taken a little bit of a break from preparing back-end courses. And I know you like to ask when the back-end courses are coming. Still don't have a date for you. Next.js, Node, all of those are still in the pipeline, hopefully coming soon. And we will, of course, keep you posted. But yeah, that does depend a bit on when we get the capability to record in V2 of Scrimba, which we're still waiting for, of course. So yeah, do check out that instant feedback feature. It's already live, I believe, in some early modules of the career path, and coming very soon to the rest of the career path. But that is not the only exciting thing, because today we are being joined by none other than Kent C. Dodds. And Kent C. Dodds is a world-renowned web development educator and engineer. I expect you've heard of him. I expect you've seen him online on YouTube. Actively involved in a lot of things, open source. He's the creator of EpicWeb.dev and the Epic Stack, which hopefully we're going to be talking about today. He's a Microsoft MVP, instructor on Egghead.io, Frontend Masters, live streamer, podcaster, conference organizer. Just sounds like an incredibly busy guy, actually. So we are really grateful to have him with us. And I'm going to bring him and Bob Zirol onto the stage. Hey, Ken, thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, especially after all those nice things you said. Thank you.
Cool. And to Town Hall regulars, no introduction needed to Bob Zirol. But if you are new to Scrimba, Bob is head of education here at Scrimba, also the creator of 2 much admired React courses on Scrimba, which you might also have seen on YouTube on Free Code Camp as well. So Bob, great to have you here. In a moment, I was going to suggest that I pass the mic over to you and let you begin a kind of, what do we call it? A gentle interrogation, a grilling of Kent. Yeah, take it from there. And in the meantime, I will keep an eye on the chat and make sure any questions kind of make their way up onto the stage. So Bob, over to you.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to see you again, Kent.
Yeah, likewise.
Your background is awesome. Did you change something?
I did, yeah. We moved into a new home just after Christmas, and so I had an opportunity to build this office from scratch, and super happy with the results. Yeah, I hired a company called Dream Studio to come build my dream studio.
Oh, nice. I'll keep that in mind, because my backdrop is wanting. It's just sound panels that I made myself and white wall.
Well, that is also cool.
Sure. Yeah, that's nice of you.
You made it yourself like that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Well, yeah, Tom gave a great introduction. I was going to ask if there's anything else you wanted to add to that, if something's more important to you than what's on your bio.
Yeah, well, I think right now the biggest thing that I'm working on is EpicWeb.conf that's happening in Salt Lake City in March. That is going to just be a phenomenal event. We have some really awesome speakers, and attendees are going to be great. So would love to get more people there and even sponsors. So if you are at a company, you want to connect with a bunch of developers, then this is a really good conference to look into. So EpicWeb.conf, March 25th to 26th.
Nice. And that was kind of the natural progression from the old Remix Conf, right? There was 2 years of Remix Conf, and then you kind of picked up the baton from there.
Yeah. So I ran RemixConf 2 years in a row, and I actually, the second conference, I was no longer working it with Remix directly. Well, I use Remix, but I was a co-founder of Remix. Then when we sold to Shopify, I went back to full-time teacher. But we'd already scheduled RemixConf year 2, and they just asked me to come on and run it again. Then they decided to not run RemixConf the next year, and so I converted it into EpicWebConf. But now in October, we're getting a Remix Jam, which is like a kind of like a meetup conference mix. It'll be not like a full day thing, but it's in Toronto. I'm not involved at all. I would like to be as a speaker, so we'll see if that ends up happening. So short answer to your question, yes, it is the natural evolution of RemixConf.
Nice. You should see if Ryan will send me there as a Remix organizer.
Yeah. Well, he's actually coming to EpicWebConf, so you could ask him yourself there.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah,
don't
he'll
have
be
my
one of the
tickets for EpicWebConf, but I am wearing my camp shirt.
Nice. Yeah, that's the other thing that I guess I'd mention is in September, we're doing Epic Web Camp again. And that was just a phenomenal experience. We're going to take all of the things that went well and dial those up to 11. So it's going to be longer. There are going to be more people there. So we'll have a lot more downtime and time just to get to know people and stuff. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Nice. Yeah, it was super fun. But yeah, I can see the need for more downtime. It was very busy.
It was fast paced.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I thought I would jump into a few questions around your expertise and what a lot of our students are interested in. I think a lot of things that are something that's on the top of a lot of people's minds as students at Scrimba is React 19. So I just launched a new update to my course that talks about React 19. It's a kind of an introductory course, but it came after quite a bit of a break from React. The React team, sticking with 18.3 for a long time. Mm-hmm. Of course, I wouldn't say it's a break. A break is a wrong word because I'm sure they're working very hard.
Yeah, they were cooking.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask what you're most excited about with the newest updates to React 19 and where it's heading in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things. React 19 has really lots of the features in React 19 have been in the works since like the 2010s. So they've just been thinking about a lot of these things for a really long time. And then Remix shows up in 2020 and kind of introduces a couple of solutions to problems that have plagued React applications forever. And we've had libraries to solve all of these things. React Query is another really good example of like, here's a pretty big gap in what React gives you out of the box. And so React Query came in to fill that in. Remix came in to fill it in further. And so the React team, they saw that and they're like, wow, okay, that kind of helps give us some ideas of how we can solve these problems. So probably the two biggest things that React was missing was a mechanism for loading data and a mechanism for like loading data into templates and a mechanism for performing mutations. There of course like have always been ways that you can do that yourself, but it was never a thing that React itself had an opinion on. And I think that was actually by design early on. It was just React is your view, and that's what it's really focused on. And this is actually one of the things I really like about React is that they don't take an opinion on something until they're really sure that it's the right opinion. And so they let the community, and then in addition to that, they open it up so that the community can come up with their own solutions to those things while we're waiting to figure out what is the right approach there. And so the community did. We came up with Redux, and there was the whole Flux architecture that came out of Facebook. And then there was the GraphQL stuff and Apollo, and there was that phase. And then we went into React Query Time, and there's a lot of like smoothing over between these things. And some people still really like Apollo, and that's like still a perfectly valid way to build an application. And then Remix shows up and starts talking about loaders and actions. And so now React, looking at the entire ecosystem of everything, decides, you know what, we really like the idea of actions tied to forms. And so we've got these form actions. And let's take it even further and just do server functions. So just you can call any function from this the client onto the server, like that you intentionally expose. And then let's talk about loading data. What if we could, instead of having JSON data come to the client and then combine that with our templates, we could actually have that combination happen on the server and then send the result to the client. And there are lots and lots of different things that can be opened up from that. And of course, like that piece particularly, I'm talking about React Server Components. They've been talking about that for a really long time. So I don't know that that Remix loaders were really an inspiration for that per se. Though I do know that the React team talked with the Remix team quite a bit. And I remember actually Michael Jackson talking with the React team a lot and saying, you've got to figure out a way to get async await working with this. And like a couple of the earlier iterations, you had to have wrappers around anything that was asynchronous. You'd have a React version of Prisma and a React version of Fetch and a React version of all these things. And then finally, they worked out a way to just make React Server Components work with async await. And that was a pretty big thing. So anyway, those are probably I can be long-winded, as you can tell, but those are probably the two biggest things: is React Server Components and server functions. There are, of course, a number of other exciting things like links and meta tags and stuff like that, but those are probably the biggest things.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It feels like the open source community, especially regarding React, is kind of a microcosm of capitalism. It's like there's competition between the frameworks, but they encourage each other to be better, and there's actually a lot of collaboration that's going on behind the scenes. I think sometimes there's an opinion that like the Remix team and the Next.js team are like butting heads or something, but there's so much collaboration. And then you see posts from Ryan that him and the Vercel guy, Guillermo, going skiing together and, just shooting the breeze and figuring things out together. It seems like it's actually a pretty collaborative environment.
Yeah, there was a time there for a while that the React team seemed to not be collaborating as well. And they weren't. They really weren't with other members outside of Vercel and Next.js. And they've resolved that. So for maybe like 2 years around the early 2020s, it was less collaborative, and it wasn't just the Remix team complaining about this. Redwood was also complaining, and a number of others. But the React team, they were cooking. They were working on stuff, and Next.js really invested hard into React Server Components while the React team was figuring that stuff out. They also were pretty collaborative with the Hydrogen team as they were trying to figure out React Server Components as well. So I think part of the lack of collaboration was probably because they were just so focused on React Server Components, and so they just focused their attention on teams that were investing heavily in it. And I remember when React Server Components were just getting going, and when Remix was released, everybody was asking, hey, why aren't you doing RSCs? Like, what's going on? And Ryan built a demo he built a version of Remix that worked with RSCs at that time. This was back in late 2020, maybe early 21. And he said, look, it's worse. So I'm not going to release a version of Remix that's worse than current Remix just so we can have RSCs. And I think that was also part of what fed into that was the Remix team. They were just really busy making Remix really awesome and didn't, there were just too many kinks to work out. Whereas the next team was, and like, we can have a discussion about this, but I don't think we want to. But the next team was just a lot more willing to just adopt RSCs even before they were, in my opinion, production ready. And really, technically, until React 19, they were not stable in React. But the Next.js team decided that if we can kind of wrap that and then call our, our surface area is stable, then people can go ahead and use it. And the Remix team just wasn't interested in that. So anyway, yeah, now it is a lot more collaborative, and there's a lot more sharing of knowledge going on. And I'm just very happy to be on this side of the React 19 release.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a few questions in the comments, and at least one of them corresponds pretty well with what I wanted to transition to next, which is any advice that you have for beginners. Most of our students are beginners. We have some that come in having a lot of back-end experience and wanting just a quick way to learn some front end. So here from Reborn, what is your advice for people starting web development? And I would add, I know you're a React, fan, but what advice do you have for beginners? And have you ever considered other frameworks or libraries for beginners?
Yeah, great question.
Starting point.
I think like the most important thing in my experience in being a beginner at anything is to start reaping rewards of your efforts as quickly and as frequently as possible. So if you're learning the piano and you just spend months upon months trying to get a scale down, like eventually you're going to just be worn out and just give up. And so you need to, yes, those fundamentals are useful, but occasionally grabbing a simplified version of a song that is popular and you enjoy, and you can start playing that and get good at that. Now you've got some like reward for your effort, and that will continue to motivate you. So it's the same in web development. You need to, like, the fundamentals are good, and you should learn those fundamentals. And I say that you go down to level up. That's one of the Epic programming principles, is to go down to level up. That means you understand how things work under the hood, and that will help you become better at using that thing. But you don't have to start with that. So like starting with something that's going to get you productive and building things and feeling like you've accomplished something can be really useful. And we're at a really interesting time now where you could build a perfectly usable and fun, interesting app with just a single prompt in Bolt.new or V0 or whatever. And I actually think that is perfectly awesome. Absolutely do that. Like anything that you can do to tinker around with this stuff is really good. Like generate an app and then go through the code and add features yourself. And while you're adding features, also use AI. I use Cursor, and I recommend that people develop that skill of using an AI assistant and reviewing that code that the AI assistant is generating. I think it's actually a really important skill that we're going to be using forever. Like AI may not take your job, but the developer who knows how to use AI could. And so you need to develop that capability. So yeah, get those quick wins. And then on the other, to answer the other question, exploring outside of React, absolutely, you totally can. You could probably learn some good things from those. I've not gone any further than a Hello World and Svelte and Vue. I started with AngularJS and then switched over to React before Angular 2 was officially released. So I haven't really done anything with Angular 2 or Angular Plus. But that was an intentional decision on my part, because I feel like I'm a much better educator of React when I spend all of my time with React. And of course, like, I'm not head in the sand. Like, I know what the other ones are doing. I know about Svelte runes and Vue 3 and the things that they're doing there too. But I think that it's better for me to just focus really hard on React. And if you want to learn React, then I have the knowledge that you need. If you want to learn something else, then that's fine. The other, and the reason that I've made this decision, aside from the fact that I really think that React is just a phenomenal way to build apps, is that it is more widely used than all of the rest of them put together. And so it's just, I'm able to have a much bigger impact. So if you want to learn the others, that's awesome. But there's more job opportunity for people who use React. And so that's why I'm going with that. So.
Yeah. When I worked at a company called vSchool here in Salt Lake, it was a coding boot camp. There was that moment where we had to decide, like, are we going to move away from Angular 1 or JS or whatever they call it now, to React? And people were asking us to do it. But whenever I would do a job search, this was like 2016, I'd do a job search and there were still more jobs in Angular than React. And once that changed, we just jumped ship immediately over to React, and it was never looked back really. I think something else as an educator that I have found is React has a lot of magic happening behind the scenes, but its surface layer relies more heavily on core JavaScript than a lot of other things. And so it becomes less confusing for students that are learning React to be, for example, using the map method to create lists, as opposed to some built-in directive or attribute like you'd see in Vue or Angular. And I found that students got better at JavaScript as they were learning React, kind of in the same way that people get. I have found, at least with myself, I haven't taught Remix, but plan to soon. But I have found that learning Remix and using Remix makes you a better general web developer, understanding the core web technologies, as opposed to just getting better at that one framework. It's like I find myself in the MDN docs much more often than when I'm building a Next.js application, which I find myself in the Next.js docs specific to Next.js.
Yep. I echo the exact same experience.
Yeah. I actually gave a talk about it at, it was my first time at the Remix meetup here in Salt Lake. That was a few years ago now.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Time flies. Tom, have you found any other comments? Or I guess you posted one here. Do you want to read that?
I did just quickly swap that one over because it was kind of related about basically improving at React, and I guess Helios Scanner is feeling that they just are not getting the most from it, I guess, when they're building their own projects.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of features in React. We talk about how React has a small surface area, and it relative to other frameworks, I think that is a fair assessment. But there are a number of React features that you don't typically use as a product engineer, but you will use quite a lot as like a component library author or something. Like even things like context, you probably don't want to use a lot as a product engineer. Now that we have great abstractions like React Router v7 and which is Remix, and things like that can handle marshaling your data and everything in React Query as well. And so with those in place, you actually don't have a lot of use cases for React Query. You're probably not going to be using transitions manually yourself, although things may change here with if you're using more form actions and things, more React 19 features, you might use those a little bit more. But even still, like probably not a ton. And so that is okay. Like if there are kind of two ways that you can approach getting really, really good at React. One way is to just build stuff and slowly your exposure expands to the feature set of React. And then the other is to very intentionally go through a learning process. And so that's like signing up for Scrimba or EpicReact or like some other course, or even just reading through all of the docs and making up your own sorts of exercises so that you can be exposed to everything that React supports and everything that it does. And I would say that most people should apply both approaches, or everybody should just apply both approaches to varying degrees. So you're a product engineer, you're working every single day with this, it's okay, here's another use of use state or use ref, and like just do that all the time. And so, yeah, maybe you grab a course so that you can be exposed to more of what's available and even become a better product engineer. Or you also just say, hey, you know what, we have this component that we're using all over the place. I want to make a component library. I want to make it really accessible. And so now you're going to start being exposed to more things. Oh, now like we're using React 19. And so we want to switch over to form actions and stuff. Now we're going to start talking about transitions and use optimistic and those things as well. So the deeper and deeper you dive into user experience and like especially when it comes to accessibility and reusable components, the more that you're going to be exposed to those features of React that we don't typically use all the time as product engineers.
Okay, pretty comprehensive answer there. So hopefully you kind of get something from that. Bob, shall I keep the questions coming?
Let's do one more if there's another
there's
obvious
plenty
one,
of good questions. I mean, we could just start from the top and take this one from Aviv. What is the best database pick for React and Next.js end-to-end projects? MySQL or SQL, depending on which way you like it.
I know what Kent's going to answer here.
Yeah.
Does it really matter?
So the answer is it depends, of course, like on most things. But for myself, I use SQLite. I start out with SQLite. We'll probably talk about the Epic stack here in a bit, but the Epic stack is my project that I put together that's a starter for anybody to reference. Even if they're not starting a project, you can reference it and see how did he do two-factor authentication or whatever. I'm working on passkeys and WebAuthn right now for the Epic stack. And so, yeah, I think that what that starts with is SQLite, and it uses Prisma for that as well. And it's just a phenomenal experience. The nice thing about SQLite is that it runs locally very, very well. And it also scales to production super well. It's the most widely used database in the world, but it's kind of cheating because it's embedded in like all of our phones and like your washing machine probably has SQLite in it. Like it's just everywhere. But like it's a really, really solid database. And because of the nature of the fact that it's embedded, it's the fastest database as well, from like communicating from the application code to the database and back and forth. That's definitely, I don't know of anything else that's faster. If it's not embedded, it's not going to be faster. Now, as far as like queries and stuff, yeah, sure, maybe there are other databases that are faster. There are some trade-offs that you make with that, though, because it is embedded. You can't like connect to your production database locally. You have to do some other things, and we have instructions on how you do that in the Epic stack. And so I never have problems being able to connect to my SQLite database. But then the other thing is you can't have, or you have to do some extra things to be able to have a distributed database. And there's no concept of sharding or anything like horizontal scaling. It's just not really a thing with SQLite, but there are other solutions to the problems that those are trying to solve as well. So anyway, that's again talking a lot, but that is my answers. I use SQLite and it's great.
Have you spent much time with Terso?
No, but I mean, I played around with it a little bit. But initially one of my hesitations was you lose the zero latency because you're communicating over HTTP to a server that's separate from the server you have. And then they added embedded replicas. And so that got me very interested because then it's effectively the same as what I have now with LightFS and SQLite running on the machine. And it was like the next problem was migrations, and the migration strategy is a little tricky and you had to like do a bunch of manual stuff. And before I got around to testing that out, they actually announced that they are sunsetting the Terso service and going all in on their Rust rewrite of SQLite. They're calling Libra. I think that's what they're calling it, or Limbo. I think it's Limbo. Yeah, so that's a recent change in Terso. They announced like 2 weeks ago.
I remember the founder, I forget his name. He was at the camp. Mm-hmm. What was it?
Glauber.
That's right. Yeah, he was at the camp. It was fun to get a chance to meet him. That's interesting.
Super
I hadn't
smart,
heard that.
like contributor to Linux, really knows his stuff on the database level, and has spent a lot of time with front end guys, which I thought was kind of interesting. He was like, I have no business being here, but I'm going to be here anyway. I like him a lot. He's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting update, I guess, for Terso. So I want to give you some time to talk about the Epic stack and kind of show it off a little bit if you're open to that.
Yeah, for sure. I totally forgot to bring stuff up so I could demo that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's do that then.
Yeah, let me get my screen shared. Okay. And we're going to do the entire screen. Oh, I need to allow Brave to do that because this is a new computer. So hopefully I don't have to restart Brave. That would be really unfortunate. Okay, let's try that again.
We'll let you back in if you have to.
Okay.
If you have to restart.
Yeah, it looks like I have to restart. Sorry, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
I guess in the meantime, we can look at some of these other questions, although most of them are probably more for Kent than for you or me.
Yeah, there are a lot for Kent.
There's a few, I think, Scrimba specific ones. You briefly talked about. Okay. So will there be a React Router v7 course on Scrimba? We actually, Per and I both reached out to Brooks Librand on the Remix team, the Shopify guys, and it looks like something's going to be in the works. So that's exciting. I'm hoping that I get to do it because I love Remix and React Router 7. So that would be really fun. And Kent's already back.
Cool.
Here we go.
All right. Let me share. There we go. Okay, here we are.
Just go super full screen. There we are.
And I'm also going to full screen this. Here we go. Okay, so the Epic stack. I'll run through the demo and I'll explain what's happening as we go. So I'm on my desktop. I'm going to npx create Epic app. And so that's going to need to install that package, and then we're going to run that. And this is actually just going out into the Remix CLI for creating a Remix app, because it is a Remix app. Eventually, this may be something else, but we're going to say, let's create a, I don't know, Scrimba notes. There we go. There we go. So we're going to make an app called Scrimba Notes. And so then this is going to generate, or it downloads the Epic Stack starter, runs the init script, which involves like running the build and everything, just to make sure that everything is set up on your computer, and also initializes a database. So we're going to say, yeah, we want to initialize that database. It's going to seed our database with some fake users and other fake data. Now it's asking if we want to set up deployment. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to do that. I'm already logged in to Fly on my local machine, but if you're not, then it'll give you an opportunity to log in. So I'm going to say we're going to be the user I'm logged in as. And then we want to deploy to a specific region. Now, one of the things about the Epic Stack is that you can actually deploy to more than just one region. So you can be in, I think they've got 37 regions all over the world, last I checked. It automatically selects the region that's closest to you. And so I'm going to go with Denver, Colorado. And we just start with one region for the start, and then you can add them later. And then in Fly, I have multiple organizations. I'm just going to put this one on my personal. And now I'm going to select the organization for, so we have both the staging environment and the production environment. So we're going to do several of these steps twice. So here, first it's saying, hey, we're creating a volume, but you only have one region. So while you're deploying, your app is going to be down. And we are going to say yes to that. We can add more regions later. And same for our both staging and production environments. And now it's getting us, or asking if we want to deploy right now. So yeah, we'll deploy. And so some of you are probably like, well, but what are we deploying? What's going on here? So while this is running, I'm actually going to cd into our Scrimba Notes app. We'll open up our editor here. I use cursor. And while all this is running, we can check out this. So let me just update my editor settings to be good for our live stream here. Where are we? There's probably an editor plugin I can use for this, but I've just gotten so used to doing it this way.
That's super smart. I should set those up.
Yeah, we've got our, this is a typical React Router v7 app, which is the same as Remix, just the latest version of Remix. We've got our Vite config in here. We have a React Router config. We're using the flat routes. So if we go into here, we have our routes here, Remix flat routes. And so it's a very opinionated starter for us to start building out our application. We also have on the server here, we have some Express code in here. We don't really touch this a whole lot. Most of what we're going to be doing happens inside of this app directory. And so this is what is getting deployed. And with it being all deployed and everything, we can now start iterating and making changes and everything, and not worry about wiring up all the deployment. The other thing that we get out of this is we have a whole bunch of scripts that we can run, like our end-to-end tests, or just like our regular tests. So npm test, this runs our vtest tests. We've got a bunch of those all set. And then we can run npm run test etue run. And this will run our build first, and then it will run our production server, and then use Playwright to go against that production server. And we also have the UI mode with Playwright for those Playwright tests. And I'm not sure why this is taking so long. We're going to just pretend that it's done. Whoops, there we go. Yeah, so something is busted. But yeah, so let's, while that's running, let's take a look at this. This just popped up on my screen. So this is our staging environment. It is now deployed to our staging environment. We can start using this. We could sign up for an account. And what's interesting about this too is we integrate with some providers on a couple of things that you don't want to build yourself. And one of those is sending emails. You don't want to build that yourself because deliverability is like an entire business. And so for that reason, I haven't set up that email service or anything yet. And so until I do that, this will actually just log to the your production logs, your server logs, the email that would have been sent. So what I'm going to do, that's my history. So hopefully there was nothing embarrassing there. What I'm going to do is go to Fly apps, and we'll sign in there. And we've got our Scrimba notes. This is our production version that's going, but while we're waiting for that, we'll just go with staging. We'll look at our live logs. And if I refresh the page here, we should see that right there. So then I'm going to create an account. We'll say me@kentcdodds.com, submit that. And then I'm going to go to my email. Oh, and production just got deployed. So that's exciting. But we're going to stick with this for now. Oh, right. I'm not going to go to my email because it doesn't go to your email. That was the whole thing I was saying. Here's where it goes. Until you set up the resend API key, that's the service that we use for email, then you're just going to get this log to the console. So you can still play around with it until you're ready to actually ship it, which is actually quite nice because maybe you're never going to ship this and you're just like playing around with stuff. You don't want to have to set up 60,000 different things. And so if we look at this link right here, here's our code, paste that in there, we submit, and now we're onboarding and we can go through the whole authentication flow. So what we showed was like production deployment, staging deployment, user authentication, data management, even like a database migration. This is running on a SQLite database right now. Integration with email. We also have integration with Sentry that you have to set up as well. But like there are just a couple of things that you set up yourself and you're off to the races with a production grade application that supports even like two-factor authentication. And you noticed in here, we can sign up with GitHub as well. We have to set up some private keys for that. And all of that stuff is in the env example. So it's just, okay, so we need to set these things up for the GitHub authentication. Here's their Sentry stuff. Here's our resend stuff. And then that's it. Like everything else is set up for you. And from there, you can just take it and do amazing stuff with it. So that is, that's the Epic Stack. Do you have any questions or things you're curious about?
It's so cool.
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I was just going to say it's such a cool idea, and there's a lot of systems out there that are unopinionated. They basically say like, oh, it's a good thing that we're unopinionated. But especially for someone who's like, I want to start a new app, and I'm immediately faced with 30 decisions. Something like the Epic Stack seems like it just solves all of them. Find somebody who is reliable in their opinions and has solid reasons for their opinions, and then just do it. And you can swap anything out that you want, right?
Speaking on those opinions, there's great documentation for the project, and one important part of the project is the guiding principles that are like, here are the ways that I make the decisions here. These kind of branch off a little bit from the Epic programming principles that I published a couple weeks ago, that like all these different things that I think are important for our craft and testing and whatever. There's a bunch of stuff in here that people should definitely check out. But there are some specific guiding principles here. And on top of that, I have decision documentation. So every decision that I make, I document why that decision was made. Like, why are we using an email service? Why are we using the client preference cookies? Why are we using, why did we do this for our icons? Different things like that. And so that, like, especially for beginners who don't really know the right way to go about doing certain things, having these documents to kind of explain why things are the way that they are can be really helpful in helping you determine, should I keep it that way or should I change it for my use case?
Yeah, and I know that I've heard you speak previously about the Epic Stack being just also a good place if you just want to get the repo and then start poking around in the code to see how things are set up in a professional manner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that's very lacking in the education space. There's a lot of toy apps that we build that are very limited in scope and size, and it can be overwhelming for anybody who is then thrown into a production code base. And so I have found that the Epic Stack is a great way to be thrown in with low stakes to a production level database, code base, and be able to poke around and just see why things are set up the way they are.
Yeah, and what's really cool about this too is now that we have AI to help us, you can literally just start up a new Epic Stack app, open up the chat in Cursor or whatever AI editor you're using, and just ask it a question like, how is email done in this project? And then it'll search through the whole project and it'll explain how email works. Okay, so you got an email service provider. Okay, it uses resend. Great, that's good to know. We've got email components with React Email. Okay, that's interesting. We have some core email functions, send email. All right, so I can go over that. Oh, okay, that's where email is happening. And we have a couple different use cases for this: sign up, password reset. So you can really get a solid understanding of how things are done in this project. Even if you're not working on the Epic Stack project, you're in some work project or something, you're given the task, oh, I need to start sending emails or something. So you go to the Epic Stack, you pull it up in your editor and you say, how does email work in this? And actually this has been around for 2 years. And so you probably could just go into ChatGPT directly and say, how does the Epic Stack do email? And it would be able to explain it to you as well. So it's super cool. Now I've spent the last decade, I had so many different ideas of how to onboard onto a new project or how to really understand a code base. And now we just have a really great way to do that. And even one where we could say, let's do like an editor. I want to change from resend to mailgun. And it will it just knows how to do all of that stuff and it will update it for you. And of course, maybe it's going to be wrong, but this is part of the skills that we need to develop as developers is how to look at the changes that the AI has made and compare it to what it's supposed to be and all of that. But we're in a really, really awesome time, and having project starters and references like this is really helpful in getting us to that eventual future where you can just get up and get going really, really quickly.
Yeah, super cool. It is simultaneously awesome and also a little bit frustrating.
Going back to our own experience.
It's like, yeah, I feel like the uphill both way kind of guy old enough.
Back in my day, we had to add semicolons by hand.
Yeah, copy and paste your code to Stack Overflow and wait 2 days for somebody to tell you you're stupid.
And even when you copy code from Stack Overflow, you have to manually format it. Are you kidding? Like, what a joke.
Yeah, spaces or tabs.
Yeah. Oh man, it's ridiculous.
Well, Kent, I want to respect your time. We are at the 10:45 our time, I guess. 45 after the hour. We've got people from all over the world. Tom, I'm going to hand it back to you if there's any final questions that we need to address or any last words.
I mean that we could go on for hours, but as you say, unfortunately we can't keep Kent for hours. But yeah, I don't know where to start. Should we just finish off with this one, because this is a good general question. Mustafa wants to know: is it a must to learn Next.js? Talking about, I guess, the current situation for employment.
Yeah, I mean the Next.js is a great framework that you can use and learn, and there are jobs for that. There are way more applications in the world that use React Router, and with React Router v7, it's just a really awesome framework now. So I'm teaching everybody to use React Router v7 and Remix, which preceded it. It's just phenomenal. It's a really great framework. I recommend it, and there are lots and lots of job opportunities for it as well. So that's what I would learn. And that's the only thing I teach. I don't teach Next.js because I think that people will be more successful going the React Router v7 route than Next.js. But you'll be successful either way.
And if we're allowed, actually, one last question, but do say if we've reached the end of your time. But I did want to put this question to you. I thought it was quite a good question. Any examples of feature you would like to see in React or in the whole React kind of sphere, if you want to take it widely?
Yeah. So like the first part of this question is what's the future? And I think I've said this for the last 7 years or so. React is the last framework you need to learn. It's the last one. You could definitely go learn other ones. It's not like it's the only one you can learn, but it's the last one you need to learn. And the reason is because by the time anything could possibly unseat React as the most widely used framework, AI will just be doing everything for us anyway, and the framework doesn't actually matter. And so that sounds like maybe doom and gloom, but it's not. It's actually really awesome. And we'll still be doing things, but you won't need to understand the framework level at that time. The other thing is, AI just keeps on learning React as well. So if you just say, go build me an app that does this, it's going to use React. And so it just feeds into itself. React is actually going to become more and more popular for that reason. Until eventually AI just makes its own framework and we don't even see what code is being generated. So who knows how close we are to that. But as far as features that I would like to have built into React, right now I'm still just trying to figure out how I feel about React server components and server functions. I'm very positive about them, but what are the gaps that we're missing in those features? I'm not quite certain yet. I need to explore it more. And then on top of that, of course, React by itself isn't all you need in building a full stack application. But what are the next things that I think React should eat as being responsible for? I'm not sure that what is left there. So any features that I think should be built into React, I'm going to just have to say I don't know yet. There probably are some, but I need to discover what gaps are left in React. It's a really great framework, though.
Cool. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of that. It's been absolutely awesome. Really, really fascinating stuff going on. Yeah, a lot of interest in the chat. As I say, we could go on, but time is against us. We are like 5 minutes over now. So yeah, just once again, thanks for joining us. Bob, thanks for putting those questions to Kent. It's been really great to have you here, both of you. And yeah, hopefully again in the future, right? We'll do it again one day.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate being invited.
Absolutely, our pleasure. Great. Okay, so yeah, that's it then for this week, and we will be back for just like a regular town hall next Tuesday, I guess. We don't have a guest for you next Tuesday, unfortunately, but we will have time for all of your questions and answers, and probably some updates on the AI stuff at Scrimba. So that to look forward to, and maybe an update on any back-end developments should anything happen in the next week. I guess that's kind of unlikely anything is massively going to change in the next week on that front, but you never know. We live in hope. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Take care. See you next week.
Bye.
See you guys.